5 years hearing Prabhupada chanting japa. It's called Shravanam. 5 years straight, eating prasadam, hearing Prabhupada. And yesterday was an auspicious day, the appearance day of, was it Janava or
Janava and Sita Day.
So, on her appearance, we can pray to their lordships, Sri Sri Radha Kanta, Gordon Tai, and Srila Prabhupada. We can all chant the Hare Krishna mantra together one time. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jai Radha Madhava Kunjami This is Okay, it's chapter 12, Mohini Ekadasi. The glories of Mohini Ekadasi, which occurs during the waxing moon of the month April-May, are described in the Surya Purana. Once Maharaj Yudhishthira asked Lord Krishna, "O Janardana, what is the name of the Ekadasi that occurs during the waxing moon in the month of April-May, and what is the process for observing this Ekadasi? Also, what is the merit one obtains by following this Ekadasi? Please explain all these to me in detail." Lord Krishna replied, "O son of Dharma," it has an explanation point, "O son of Dharma, please hear me attentively as I describe the story that sage Vashishta once told Lord Ramachandra. One day long ago, Lord Ramachandra said to the great sage Vashishta, 'O respected sage, I am feeling great distress due to separation from Sita, the daughter of King Janava. Kindly explain to me the great vow to follow which will mitigate all one's sinful reactions and distresses.' The great sage Vasishta, who was the spiritual master of Ramachandra, even God is a guru, said, 'My dear Rama, your intelligence is sharp and mixed with faith. Moreover, your question is beneficial for the entire humanity. Just by chanting and remembering your all auspicious holy names, all living entities can become purified and eligible to achieve all auspiciousness. Still, for the benefit of the ordinary people, I will describe to you about a great vow. O Lord Rama, the Ekadasi that occurs during the waxing moon in the month of April-May is famous as Mohini Ekadasi and is very auspicious. By following this Ekadasi, all one's sinful reactions, material miseries, and network of illusion are destroyed. Network of illusion. Now, please hear attentively as I narrate the most pious topics of this Ekadasi. Quote, there was a beautiful city named Bhadravati, situated on the bank of the sacred river Saraswati, which was ruled by a king named Jutimama. O Lord Rama, this king was born in the dynasty of the moon, and he was tolerant and truthful. There was a pious and prosperous devotee of Lord Vishnu named Dhanapala, who also lived in that city. He was a Vaishya, a mercantile community, in parentheses. He was a Vaishya by profession. For the benefit of the ordinary people, this devotee, Dhanapala, built many dharmshalas, or guest house, schools, temples of Lord Vishnu, charitable hospitals, wide roads, and marketplaces. He also made arrangements for distributing water and foodstuff. He dug wells for cool drinking water and ponds for clear water. He also built gardens for flowers and fruits. In this way, he properly utilized his wealth for the benefit of all, and thus successfully demonstrated the true meaning of his name. This pious devotee of Lord Vishnu, who was always peaceful, a benefactor of others, and engaged in devotional service to Vishnu, had 5 sons, namely Shamana, Jutimana, Medhavi, Sukriti, and Drishtaburi. His son, Drishtaburi, was most sinful. He was extremely wicked, ill-natured, always engaged in bad association, and having illicit connection with unchaste women. He was also fond of gambling and drinking wine. He even took pleasure in killing and torturing other living entities. In this way, he engaged an all-round ace, great guy.
Sounds like a lot of people we know.
Yeah. It's like a regular Joe right now. In this way, he engaged in all kinds of sinful reactions. Soon, where was I? He was also found gambling and even took place. In this way, he engaged in all kinds of sinful activities and soon turned into an abominable son of a most pious father, and was a disgrace to the family. He never showed respect to the demigods, Gets, old forefathers, or Brahmanas. He was constantly engaged in thinking of committing sinful activities, and thus lived a contemptible life. The sinful wretch, Drishtaburi, misused all his father's wealth in many useless activities. He also ate abominable foodstuff and remained always absorbed in drinking wine. One day, on seeing his shameless son walking in the public place, while placing his hand on the shoulder of a prostitute, Dhanapala became extremely hurt. On that very day, he threw out his spoiled son from the house. Drishtaburi then became bereft of everyone's affection, including from his father, mother, brothers, relatives, and friends. He was degraded from his position in caste society and the pious community, and became an object of hatred for everyone. After being thrown out from his father's house, Drishtaburi continued his sinful propensities with the money he received by selling his personal clothes and ornaments. Soon, that also came to an end. Gradually, due to lack of sufficient food, his body became weak and skinny. On realizing that he had become poor, his so-called deceitful friends left him, condemning him on various pretexts. Dushtabhuti was now full of anxiety. He had no food or clothes and was extremely afflicted with hunger. So he began to contemplate, what should I do now? Where should I go? By which means will I survive? After contemplating in this way, he decided that there was no other alternative than to start stealing for his survival. Wow, he's got an ace of a plan, yeah. He's really learned his lesson.
He's a big one.
So, with a desire to steal, he began to wander throughout the city. Sometimes the king's guard would arrest him, and after considering his father's greatness, he would release him. After being caught and released in this way many times, he was once again formally arrested for committing a special kind of theft. He was taken to the king, who awarded him severe punishment. The king said, "O sinful, foolish creature, you cannot stay within this kingdom. You cannot stay within this kingdom anymore, for you are the greatest sinner. I am releasing you for now, but leave this kingdom immediately and go wherever you wish, but not here." So he achieved something. He became the greatest sinner. Dushtabhuti, afraid of being punished again, left the kingdom. He went far away and entered into a dense forest. Within the forest, he became so afflicted with hunger and thirst that he began to kill beasts and birds indiscriminately and ate their raw flesh. For many years, he wandered throughout the forest like a hunter, holding a bow and arrow in his hands and killing innocent animals and engaging in sinful activities. Dushtabhuti was always miserable and anxious, but one day, due to some past pious deeds, he arrived at the sacred ashram of the great sage and ascetic Kaundinya. While wandering about the forest, it was the month of Vaishakha, April, May, and the great sage Kaundinya was just returning home after taking bath in the Ganges. At that time, by providence, Dushtabhuti, who was very aggrieved by distress and lamentation, happened to touch a drop of water falling from the sage's cloth. Dushtabhuti was immediately relieved of all sinful reactions. He just touched the water.
Fell from where?
From the cloth of the sage. It says he touched a drop of water falling from the sage's cloth. Dushtabhuti was immediately relieved of his sinful reactions. With folded hands and great humility, he said to sage Kaundinya, "O great Brahmana, I am the most sinful person. There is no sin that I have not committed. Now please instruct me about a topmost type of atonement, which a most wretched person like me can easily perform. As a result of committing unlimited sinful activities, till now I have been bereft of my house, wealth, relatives, and friends. I'm drowning in an ocean of mental agony." I think I can relate to that. After hearing these statements of Dushtabhuti, the great sage Kaundinya, feeling distressed by seeing another's distress, said, "I am telling you a sublime method by which all your sinful reactions can easily be nullified in a very short time. Please hear me attentively. Mohini Ekadasi, which occurs during the waxing moon in the month of April-May, totally destroys a mountain of sinful reactions as big as Mount Sumeru, accumulated for many, many lifetimes. Therefore you should faithfully observe this Ekadasi." Hearing these words, the great sage Dushtabhuti, hearing these words from the great sage, Dushtabhuti became joyful and properly observed that Ekadasi according to the rules and regulations instructed by the sage. O best of kings, by observing this Mohini Ekadasi, the most sinful Dushtabhuti soon became devoid of all sinful reactions and after assuming a divine body, he returned to the all-auspicious abode of Lord Vishnu by riding on the back of the bird Garuda. Garuda Bhagavan Stuta Stuvastandamaya Prabhu Rakshatu Shichkishtebhyo Vishvaksena Sunambi. Lord Garuda is as powerful as the Supreme Personality of God himself. He's glorified. He's glorified by Vedic mantras, the sound vibration, the wings, the sound of his wings flapping, or the sound of the Hare Krishna mantra. Oh Ramachandra, this vow certainly removes all kinds of illusion and the darkness of ignorance. Any piety accumulated by taking bath in the holy waters, giving in charity and performance of sacrifice cannot be compared with the piety one attains by observing this Mohini Ekadasi. All glories to Mohini Ekadasi. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Nam Vira Mahavishnu Tavata Savatoram Kamna Shingham Vishanam Narayanam Namaskritya
Narayanam Namaskritya
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Devim Sarasatim Vyasam
Devim Sarasatim Vyasam
Tam Jayam Udiriye.
Jayam Udiraye.
Before reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, we should first offer our respectful obeisances to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Narayan, to Narayan Rishi, the supremmost human being, Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, to Srila Vyasadeva, the author, and to Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual master. Namo Vishmadaya Krishna Prasad Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Namaste. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Bhajane Nivasesha Sunyavadi Paskata Vesara. So, we're reading from chapter 13, that's text 44, right? Yes. Okay, so I'll repeat after me. Yan Manyase Dhruvam Lokam Yan Manyase Dhruvam Lokam Adhruvam Va Na Chobayam Adhruvam Vacha Chobayam Sarvata Nahi Sokyas Te Sarvata Nahi Sokyas Te. So is it, how would you say soak?
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
What? Which one?
It should be shokas. Shoka.
Sochaste. Okay. Snehat Anyatra Mohajat Snehat Anyatra Mohajat Yan Manyase Dhruvam Lokam Adhruvam Vana Chobhayam Sarvata Nahi Sochaste Snehat Anyatra Mohajat Yan Manyase Dhruvam Lokam Adhruvam Vana Chobhayam Sarvata Nahi Sochaste Snehat Anyatra Mohajat Yan Manyase Dhruvam Lokam Adhruvam Vana Chobhayam Sarvata Nahi Soyaste mohajat.
Sneharanyata mohajat.
Someone else.
Yanmanyase drubam lokam. Adrubam vana chobhayam. Sarvatani sochaste. Sneharanyata mohajat.
Anyone else? Ladies?
Yanmanyase dhruvam lokam.
Yanmanyase drubam lokam.
Adrumam vanachabhayam.
Adrubam vana chobhayam.
Sarvatani sochaste.
Sarvatani sochaste.
Snehan anyatra mohanjat.
Sneharanyata mohajat.
Yanmanase dhruvam lokam.
Yanmanyase drubam lokam.
Adruvam vanachopayam.
Adrubam vana chobhayam.
Sarvatanihi sochasche.
Sarvatani sochaste.
Snehat anyatra mohajat.
Sneharanyata mohajat.
Right, so word for word. I think the last one's not continuing. Okay. Yat,
Yat,
even though.
even though.
Manyase,
Manyase,
you think. Dhruvam,
Dhruvam,
absolute truth.
absolute truth.
Lokam,
Lokam,
persons. Adruvam,
Adruvam,
non-reality. Non-reality.
Non-reality.
Yes. Va,
Va,
either. Na,
Na,
or not. Cha,
Cha,
also. Uvayam,
Uvayam,
or both way, or both wise.
birthright.
It actually says both wise. B-O-T-H-W-I-C-S-E. Both wise.
Both wise.
Both wise. Okay.
Probably.
Sarvata,
Sarvata,
in all circumstances.
in all circumstances.
Na,
Na,
never.
never.
He,
He,
certainly.
certainly.
Soya,
Soya,
subject for lamentation.
subject to lamentation.
Te,
They,
they. Snehat,
Snehat,
due to affection.
due to affection.
Anyatra,
Anyata,
otherwise. O mohajat,
Mohajat,
due to bewilderment.
due to bewilderment.
So I'll say the words, then you repeat. Translation. O King,
O King,
in all circumstances,
in all circumstances,
whether you consider the soul to be an eternal principle,
whether you consider the soul to be an eternal principle,
or the material body
or the material body
to be perishable,
to be perishable,
or everything
or everything
to exist in the impersonal absolute truth,
or to exist in personal absolute truth,
or everything to be inexplicable,
or everything to be inexplicable,
an inexplicable combination of matter and spirit,
combination of matter and spirit,
feelings of separation are due, feelings of separation, go ahead,
feelings of separation,
are due only
are due only
to illusory affection
to illusory affection
and nothing more.
and nothing more.
O King, in all circumstances, whether you consider the soul to be an eternal principle, or the material body to be perishable, or everything to exist in the impersonal absolute truth, or everything to be an inexplicable combination of matter and spirit, feelings of separation are due only to an illusory affection and nothing more. These are very appropriate. So, purport by Srila Prabhupada. The actual fact is that every living being is an individual part and parcel of the Supreme Being, and his constitutional position is subordinate cooperative service. And that one line right there is, I think, really an important point. We can discuss it, but I want to repeat it again. Our constitutional position is subordinate cooperative service, or servants. either in his conditional material existence or in his liberated position of full knowledge and eternity. The living entity is eternally under the control of the Supreme Lord. But those who are not conversant with factual knowledge are put forward many speculative propositions about the real position of the living entity. It is admitted, however, by all schools of philosophy that the living being is eternal, and that the covering body of the five material elements is perishable and temporary. The eternal living entity transmigrates from one material body to another by the law of karma. And material bodies are perishable by their fundamental structures. Therefore, there is nothing to be lamented in the case of the souls being transferred into another body or the material bodies perishing at a certain stage. There are others also who believe in the merging of the spirit soul in the Supreme Spirit when it is uncovered by the material encagement. And there are others also who do not believe in the existence of spirit and soul, but believe in tangible matter. In our daily experience, we find so many transformations of matter from one form to another, but we do not lament such changing features. In either of the above cases, the force of divine energy is uncheckable. No one has any hand in it, and thus there is no cause of grief. So it's a very appropriate verse in purport. Mahalakshmi's Mataji left yesterday. Earlier we all chanted the Hare Krishna mantra for our soul. So, if the verse again is, O King, in all circumstances, whether you consider the soul to be an eternal principle, or the material body to be perishable, or everything to exist in the impersonal absolute truth, or everything to be an inexplicable combination of matter and spirit, feelings of separation are due only to illusory affection and nothing more. It's not that we're cold-hearted or we don't, feel separation when someone leaves, when someone passes on. We've all had this experience. And today, a member of our community is feeling it more personally than most of us, right at this moment. It's not easy, even though you know the philosophy, and even though we know, in this case, Mahalakshmi Prabhu's, I shouldn't say Prabhu, that's it's masculine. Okay, so Mother of Mahalakshmi, or the feminine form of Prabhu, so her mother for 5 years was listening to Prabhupada chanting, and she was taking prasadam, drinking prasadam, and she was committing no sinful activities. That's called shravanam. Hearing. That's how parikit. All you have to do, there's 9 processes of devotional service. You just have to do one of them. Even if they don't chant, if you just hear, you're hearing from the pure devotee, that's it. That's the key. The hearing is the strongest sense, the most important way to get to the soul, to wake up the soul. And so, for 5 years, no sinful activities, just hearing the holy name, hearing philosophy, prasadam. So if that's a direct passage, the soul is free, no longer having to experience, this miserable material world, experiencing the eternal realm of bliss and knowledge. I want to talk about that, but I just wanted to mention that, a lot of times when people go to these wakes and things like that, I went to my father's and other relatives, and hearing the people speaking, it just, there's nothing there. It's all fluff. They don't know what they're talking about. But in this situation, we have the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita for a start, and there's so many things here. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor any of these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. This is Krishna talking to Arjuna in the 2nd chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. There's a whole series of verses here. It just talks about, as the embodied soul, Dehinosmin yata dehi kamaram yavanam jara data dehanta praptiya derastata namuyate. As the embodied soul continually passes in this body from boyhood to youth and to old age. The soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. O son of Kunti, the non-permanent appearance of happiness and distress and their disappearance in due course are like the appearance and disappearance of winter and summer seasons. They arise from sense perception, and we must learn to tolerate them without being disturbed. The person who is not disturbed by happiness and distress is steady in both, is certainly eligible for liberation. Those who are seers of the truth conclude that the non-existent, the material body, there is no endurance, and the eternal soul, there is no change. This they have concluded by studying the nature of both. That which pervades the entire body you should know to be indestructible. No one is able to destroy the imperishable soul. The material body is the material body of the indestructible, immeasurable, and eternal living entity is sure to come to an end. Therefore, we should not lament. Neither he who thinks the living entity the slayer, nor he who thinks it is slain is in knowledge, for the self slays not, nor slain. The soul is neither born, and there's no death at any time. He has come into being, does not come into being, and he will not come into being. He is unborn, eternal, ever existing, primeval. He is not slain when the body is slain. It just goes on like this. The soul is indestructible, eternal, unborn, immutable. It's not withered by the wind. It's not cut by any weapon. It doesn't get burned by fire. It's not moistened by water. So it's just like shedding a garment. That's all that's happening. But it's also a sad time. It's bittersweet because this person, gave a devotee life. And that devotee is giving life to so many other nice devotees. And so on all sides, her life is auspicious, and her passing is auspicious, passing on an auspicious day. Was it Sita and Janava? And then a very auspicious month. So there's nothing here lamentable on any side. So one thing is that I wanted to really talk about is that one expression in the purport, and it's this one here that it says, because Prabhupada said, we always repeat this, that Prabhupada at the end of his life said that the test of your love for me will be your ability to cooperate. And for me it's like I really wish we could talk about what it means to cooperate. How we achieve cooperation. And it's sort of an abstract, but in this purport, Prabhupada states a very important thing. He says, your constitutional position is subordinate cooperative service. It's like sugar is sweet, water is liquid, ice is cold, salt is salty. We are cooperative, subordinate servants. That's who we really are. When we want to be, that's who we are. And all of this that we're going through now is preparing us so that we can enter into the spiritual world again. We have to become purified of all of the conditionings that we've developed throughout all these lifetimes separated from Krishna. I can't remember if I mentioned this example before, but Colleen and I did this art show in Florida, and it was a gated community, and it was all very, very wealthy people. Some of them, like the I Dream of Jeannie star, that Barbara Eden, she lived there. They all had cottages there. It was like a summer home or winter home or whatever. And so we got to set up our art, and they were all there. And so, but I realized after a few minutes when I was there that this was around 2006, 2007. The Iraq War was going on, and things, the economy was starting to get rocky. And if I had said anything that was, that appeared, politically incorrect for that place, like criticized the war or something like that, I was out of there. So that's a perverted reflection. It just hit me because this was like a heavenly little place, in Florida. The water was like turquoise color. It was perfect weather, very clean white sand, beautiful little cottages they were all living. A very nice situation. They were being served by people delivering their foods and drinks and so on. And but if you don't have the right mentality, you're gone. You have to think like they do. So similarly, in the spiritual world, the second we develop any kind of jealousy, any kind of separate desire from Krishna, we're gone. That's why we're here. I actually had a dream a couple of months ago. One of my godbrothers passed away, and I was with him, and he was showing me this beautiful hall that it was like the ISKCON in the spiritual world, and he had a room, and it was all the deities that he had in South America, Jagajivan. He had, I think, installed the deities in Peru, in Paraguay, Uruguay, maybe Chile also. He opened up those places for Prabhupada. And he had those deities. And he was showing me. And I was, wow, this is amazing. This is great. And then for one split second, I thought, I was a jealous thought. I thought, why does he get to do it? Why can't I? And I woke up and I was here. This is a great place to be, but I was in my own miserable condition. That one split second of jealousy, I was out of that. And it was beautiful. The atmosphere was, so, so what the thing is to, we have, this whole process is a process of purification, and we're trying to get ourselves prepared so that we have to be qualified to go into the spiritual world. So we have to get off the bodily platform, we have to get off the mental platform, and there's many subtleties to this that we need to deal with, and one of them is pride. Let's see, here it is. Yes. We're never going to find happiness. Here's another point I wanted to make. I forgot now. I just remembered. So, we can't find happiness in this material world, and no one in the annals of history has found happiness in this material world, and I can prove it. The author of the Vedas and the Vedanta Sutra, Vyasa, the Vedas and the Vedanta Sutra give you all the instructions. It's like a handbook to how to use the material world, how to live in the material world, and how to achieve all the mystic powers, to go to the most beautiful celestial parts of the universe, to have a longevity, to get a beautiful spouse, great wealth, whatever thing you can think of. It's a guidebook on how to achieve all of those things within the material world. And he, after writing the guidebook, and knew all the instructions and knew how to do all those things, he was despondent. He wasn't happy. So much so that as Narada Muni, his spiritual master, came. And he was sitting there, and you could see his face. He was just, so he's asking, what's the problem? You've just written all the Vedas and the Vedanta Sutra. You've helped human society, human civilization. You've helped them how to live pious lives, what to avoid, how to enjoy in this material world. Why are you unhappy? He said, I don't know, I feel empty. He says, because you've forgotten Krishna. Because you can't be happy without Krishna. None of us can be happy without Krishna. This material world, there's nothing here that's enjoyable. There's that verse in the Bhagavad Gita that says, attracted by the flowery words, of the Vedas. I was writing something the other day. I said, long have I lingered on the shores of the desires of those celestial places, heard by the flowery words of the Vedas. You know, long have I lingered for these things, listening to these flowery words. You know, but those flowery words of the Vedas, they attract you to nothing of any substance. So what we are interested in is finding the real happiness. And the real happiness comes from not trying to exploit this material world for our own pleasure. And here people are fighting over the smallest, most insignificant places like Syria. Who cares about Syria? Why are they fighting? Why are people being gassed and tortured to gain some control of basically a desert? Israel and Palestine. What is the use of it? Why are they fighting for it? It's all based on false identification with this material world. So there's some verses in the 15th chapter that describes the banyan tree, which is a description of the material universe. The real form of this tree cannot be perceived in this world. No one can understand where it ends, where it begins, and where its foundation is. But with determination, one must cut down this strongly rooted tree with the weapon of detachment. Thereafter, one must seek that place from which, having gone, one never returns, and there surrender to that Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom everything began and from whom everything has extended since time immemorial. Those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who are unbewildered, know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain to that eternal abode. And Prabhupada says, the surrendering process is described here very nicely. The first qualification is that one should not be deluded by pride. This is the most, this is the beginning. This pride that I think that I've acquired something here, that this is my property, that I'm the supreme enjoyer, that I have so much talent. Because the conditioned soul is puffed up, thinking himself to be the Lord of material nature, it is very difficult for him to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should know by the cultivation of real knowledge that he is not the Lord of material nature. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is the Lord. When one is free from delusion caused by pride, he can begin the process of surrender. For one who always expecting some honor, who's always expecting some honor in this material world, it is not possible to surrender to the Supreme Person. Pride is due to illusion. For although one comes here, stays for a brief time, and then goes away, he has the foolish notion that he is the Lord of the world. He thus makes all things complicated. He is always in trouble. The whole world moves under this impression. People are considering the land, this earth, to belong to human society. They have divided the land under the false impression that they are the proprietors. One has to get out of this false notion that human society is the proprietor of this world. When one is freed from such a false notion, he becomes free from all the false associations caused by familial, social, and national affections. These faulty associations bind one to this material world. After this stage, one has to develop spiritual knowledge. One has to cultivate knowledge of what is actually his own and what is actually not his own. And when one has an understanding of things as they are, he becomes free from all dual conceptions, such as happiness and distress, pleasure and pain. He becomes free, full of knowledge. Then it is possible for him to surrender to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So one example of pride, false pride, because there is real thing, there is such thing as having pride. But a false pride, Prabhupada said, is that if you have a talent that's God-given, he gives the example, he calls it a borrowed plumes. One should not be proud of borrowed plumes. So if, in other words, someone has a really good singing voice or the ability to play madanga, really first-class cook, that's a God-given talent. I am the ability in man, Krishna says. So if I don't offer that talent, if someone says to you, oh, you sing so nicely, just like whenever Prabhupada someone would say, Prabhupada, you've done this, you've done that, he would say, it is all due to my spiritual master's mercy. He never would take credit. He'd always pass it on to his spiritual master. And so in this way, he's basically saying that he's accepting that this is all Krishna's mercy, because we're receiving Krishna's mercy through the disciplic succession. So we shouldn't, if we are using that service in a way that is pleasing to the spiritual master and to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and helping the preaching mission, then there's in humility, then there's pride. But if one falsely thinks that somehow or other I'm superior to others, I always will be superior to others. I can give a good example of it. When I first joined, there was Jai Dutta was working with the Back to Godhead, and he was always talking about this devotee that used to help Prabhupada with his editing. His name was something like Ray Rama or something, and he was very, very intelligent, and he was very good at editing and helping Prabhupada with the teachings of Lord Chaitanya. You can even see it, his name, I think, in some of the early, I don't know if it's still there, but it was definitely in the early copies of TLC. But he became really arrogant, and he thought that he should be co-author with Prabhupada. And this was, not acceptable. And so he left, and one day he came back, went out at a Sunday feast. I happened to be there, and Jai Dutta was so excited to see him. And he just talked to Jai Dutta. When Jai Dutta came back, he was like, I can't believe it's the same person. It doesn't make any sense. He was so intelligent, he was so well spoken, but Krishna's taken away all of his intelligence. He was falsely proud of this intelligence, and he was trying to, he put himself on a level with his spiritual master. The only reason he had any contact with Lord Chaitanya's, the Chaitanya Charitamrita, was because of Srila Prabhupada. What did he know? He was born in complete ignorance. Anyway, I don't want to be too harsh on this person, but this is an example on how what false pride is. But false pride, I was listening to this one devotee in Australia giving a class about different symptoms of false pride. And I'm not saying that this is something that we should go around and pointing it out in others, but we can see it in ourselves and as for our own purification. Because the point is that, just imagine in this community, if we, all of us, it's like, say I can develop 0.001% of Prabhupada's purity, and someone else can develop, 0.1%, or if we all adds up together, we make 1% of Prabhupada's purity. Together, working together, we would, magical things could happen. We believe in miracles. Miracles are simply Krishna taking control. Things, everything, the fact that I know how to speak, I don't know why certain words come out and then you understand them, or I can move my arms. Actually, for some people, that's a miracle. The sun is rising exactly at the same time every day. We know it. I mean, not the same time, but it's calculated. They can figure out when it's going to rise, and it never not rises. So many things we take for granted are miracles. A miracle is but God working through His energy. And so it was a miracle. Prabhupada came to America with nothing, no money. The rupees he had was useless. It couldn't even be transferred into dollars or any form of currency. So he had no money, no connections except for the order of his spiritual master and a few cases of books that he had translated, the Srimad Bhagavatam, not just any books. And the books that Narada Muni told Vyasadeva to write when he was lamenting. He couldn't, after writing the Vedanta Sutra and the Vedas, I don't understand why I'm not happy. Why am I unhappy? And Narada Muni said, you have forgotten to glorify Krishna. Therefore the Srimad Bhagavatam, therefore Sukadeva Goswami, therefore Parikshit Maharaj. Because all these, when Parikshit Maharaj found out about the curse, he went to the sages down by the sacred river and asked them, and they're all giving things like Yana Karma, this different Astanga Yoga, this thing, that thing, and Parikshit said, but what about Krishna? Because he had seen Krishna save him in the womb. And Sukadeva happens by, and he had just heard his father reciting the Bhagavatam, and now he wanted to give it to Parikshit Maharaj. And it was a perfect meeting of two souls for our benefit. All of these things are happening because Vyasadeva, part of his lament was he could see the force of time, how powerful it was, and how the seasons were changing in the universe, and that the virtuous qualities of human society were diminishing. He saw Kali Yuga coming. He saw the coming of this winter age, and he wanted to help us in our dire straits in this winter. And so we are all very fortunate that Srila Prabhupada did come. But I'm just pleading with everyone that we start to understand, to look within and try to, clean our hearts, try to chant better together in a cooperative way, and put aside anything that's blocking. Another symptom of false pride is I can't take advice from anyone. I'm not teachable. I know better. I know better than everyone else here. I know how things should be, and everyone should listen to me. It may be that some people are more better at managing, and we can all work on that together. But there's, everyone is teachable. Everyone we all need each other. There's nothing that any one of us can do that can equal or surpass what all of us can do together. There's another symptom of false pride is you become very judgmental and critical, which may sound like I'm doing now, but I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to discuss what is necessary, at least for myself, what is necessary in order to become successful in Krishna consciousness. So that I can actually, when I leave the body, I will be a fit candidate to enter into the spiritual world. That I won't have any envy, I won't have any jealousy, and I have to practice that now. I won't be harsh with anyone. I won't be impatient with people. I have this quality. I'm very impatient with other people. I know that. This is something I have to work on. These are qualities that are symptoms of false pride. And the symptoms of humility are that we understand that all of our abilities are coming from Krishna. All of our knowledge is coming from Krishna. And it should all be used in the service of Krishna under the directions of our spiritual master, in a cooperative spirit. If we really want to please Prabhupada, and I'm sure everybody does, or please your spiritual master as a representative of Prabhupada, then we should all learn the art of cooperation, because it's our constitutional position to be subordinate, cooperative servants. So anyway, I was trying to find the thread. I couldn't quite find it, but I found it. I think a little bit at the end, and I apologize. But I thank you for your patience for listening. Does anyone have any questions or comments? Huh? Excuse me?
Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. Oh.
Thank you so much.
Mother Krishna?
When you were talking about pride,
Yes?
what came to my mind, I mean, it's a totally different thing than the material pride that we have. How Krishna can even disappear even from his beloved gopis, like when they were feeling proud of having Krishna right beside him, he like automatically, he disappeared from that particular place. So we could see how.
Yeah.
pride-
That's right. They got very proud that he was, he was with them. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. This is,
Immediately they were, of course, overwhelmed with love. I mean, beyond
Of
I
course.
can understand, because everything they would ask is, "Have you seen Krishna? Have you seen Krishna?" But in the same way, and then another thing that came to my mind, that they took shelter of the holy name. I remember reading in the Krishna book how they kept chanting Krishna's name, and
because they were purely chanting. That was,
Krishna.
yeah. But they actually saw, they were going through what I remember is, if I'm not mistaken, they saw the four-armed form of Narayan,
Yes.
and they asked him, "Have you seen Krishna?"
Yeah.
They were only going to be happy if they saw the two-armed form of Krishna. Yeah, so there's a lot about this understanding of pride, and how it manifests itself in us. I heard this one devotee comparing it to having a disease like cancer. It's insidious. You don't realize, like, sometimes you may have a disease like cancer and not know it, and it's silently growing within you. So we may not see these qualities that we have. Like I was listening to several classes on this point, and the last few days, and I'm not doing them justice, but there was this point that they were discussing. I just already lost it just in my head, just that moment. What was I going to say? I forgot. I hate when that happens. But anyway, so here, I know. I recognized that certain qualities, certain things, certain aspects of pride or false pride, I really meditated on a lot. I even wrote one, based on the example that Prabhupada gives, that a tree that's overladen with fruit bows down humbly, and a tree that stands very tall, we've discussed it before, has no fruits at all. And so, that it's from the saying, pride comes before the fall. So I've meditated on this, and I thought I understood what false pride was. But I've heard devotees explaining other symptoms of it. And, it's just like, say, when you decide that I'm going to be celibate. Okay? That's not just physical. You can't be physically celibate unless you're mentally celibate. And, growing up in America and the surrounding, being conditioned, in even just over the few generations before I met the devotees, there's a kind of sense of humor that you hear. And so in your mind, you hear certain phrases, and then you relate that to something like a joke that might have some, illicit sex innuendo. That, you have to purify the conditioning of your mind, like when, the type of sense of humor that you used to have, like sarcasm. Sarcasm is the kind of humor that I grew in New York. Everybody is sarcastic. But actually, it's a very harsh thing when you think about it. It means that you're thinking you're better than this person. I mean, sometimes I think it could be slightly like political satire, maybe, but generally speaking, when you're very sarcastic towards somebody, you have a sarcastic attitude. And I am. I have definitely a sarcastic streak. And I've never even considered that to be a crime. But it is. It's false pride. It's saying that I think that this person is beneath me. And you know, we're all equal. You know, I am an insignificant servant. The best prayer to find out what is humility and what is not false pride is to hear Prabhupada's prayer when he arrived in Boston on the Jaladuta. You know, that somehow or other you brought me here, and I don't know what you want me to do. I don't know what to say. I don't know why you brought me here. But if you want me to sing, then make me sing. If you want me to dance, then make me dance. I am your puppet. Those words, those feelings, that, you know, I was thinking, you know, to write a Vyas Puja offering. So I just wrote one mentally, and I actually just was praying to Prabhupada while I'm doing him in the morning, cleaning him. One morning I was thinking, I want to write a Vyas Puja offering to you. And it's like, the offering will be, if it's all right with you, it's like when you're worshipping the Ganges, you take Ganges water and you worship the Ganges. So I would like to plagiarize your prayer that you wrote, and I would like to make those words my own and try to capture those words. I know they're your words, but I would like to offer them back to you. Somehow or other, I'm here now, in this place, so there's a reason you want me here, and so make me useful. You make me help create cooperation. Whatever that may be. I mean, it may be something I don't, you know, necessarily have, you know, in total agreement with. But if that's the right thing and we all agree on it, we'll know it, and we should all be enthusiastic to do it. To work together. Because if we work together, even though we're not, many of us, and a lot of us are older now, if we become purer, and we become even just 0.1 or 0.01% of what Prabhupada is, we can do amazing things. And we'll all be ecstatic. And because there's no reason for jealousy or envy, ever, because every single one of us is totally unique. Krishna created us for one specific service that only you can do to please Him. No one else can do what you can do to please Krishna. That's the way, we're all individuals, we've all been given a unique talent from the Creator, from Krishna, and thanks to Srila Prabhupada, we're getting a chance to remember it. And right now, we're clouded with so many memories. Like, and this word cloud, I was thinking, I was listening to devotees mentioning we want to put our information in the sound cloud. But I was thinking, actually, we should maybe change it from cloud to the sound effulgence, or the sound... Instead of a cloud, this is the sound effulgence. It's part of the rays of God. It's waking people up, waking us up. I mean, because we all want to go out on a good note. We all want to go out happy on our way back. We all want to go out having done something, even just a small thing. And because we're all tiny and small. And if you think about it, it's all so... The 1,200 acres, yeah, that's nothing. I mean, it's relatively... That's a lot of money, but it's really so small. We are so small. There's no point. We don't have time to waste disagreeing or picking away at each other. No, only the way I say to do Tulsi Puja. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Let's just agree on something and go on. Let's move on to the next thing. Let's move on to the bliss. Does anyone disagree? Have I said anything offensive? It's possible. Anyway, and I'm very grateful to some of these classes I heard. One of them I think he's a disciple of Radhanath. I heard part of his class, and then I heard a class from about 6 years ago from an Australian devotee. His name is Bhaktidas, and he really broke down false pride in a way that I had never thought about before. And there are other symptoms that he says self-pity is a form of false pride. Because you cling to some hurt or frustration and disappointment, and you get attention, and you begin to relish that attention, and so you get stuck there, living in this self-pity. And it's not productive. It doesn't help you in any way to feel sorry for yourself, to be sad. What ultimately, the only sadness is that we're not blissful. If you think about it, the irony of the whole thing. And we're not blissful because we're identifying with the material world, and we're identifying with our issues. And so, anyway, I just pray that someday I may be able to actually express what's in my heart, and that I say something that's pleasing to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yes?
It's interesting that the pride and the false pride, and sometimes you can't tell them apart really, Shirley, and then the words are even just the same. And sometimes you can't, it's like you have a garden, you have weeds, and sometimes the weeds just look like the plant, and you miss them, and you're protecting them, and they're just weeds.
Right.
And you figure it out later. It can go the other way too. Sometimes real pride looks like false pride. If you're excessively hard on yourself or discouraged or kind of confused about that, sometimes the good kind of pride can appear like the false kind of pride, and we need to be able to know when to encourage something, because I asked somebody once, it just seemed like too much, that we have to be ready, we have to be so humble that we let people trample on us. It just seemed like too much. And this person said, well, don't let them trample your devotional creeper.
Right.
That made sense. So we have to, this is the good kind of pride. We have to be able to protect what's good and be strong in it. So it's very confusing to tell the difference sometimes.
Yeah.
Sometimes we're excessively guilty or something, and
Well, one of the things that I can tell you what humility is not. I heard this definition of it. Is that it is not being embarrassed by revealing your worst sins or your biggest mistakes, or having a form of self-hatred. That's not humility. Yeah. Nor is it having a low self-esteem. When you recognize what gifts or talents you have, and everything is important. Prabhupada considered everything, if it's saturated with devotion, it is important. Cleaning pots, cleaning the commodes, it is important. There's no better, higher, lower. It's all our mental concoctions. What matters is our hearts, our devotion. That's what really matters. Yeah. But the other part is that one symptom is that when someone, or we, or one person, or several of us has false pride, is that we can't relate to one another. We alienate each other. If you can't relate, you can't, and when alienating, you can't cooperate. If you're not cooperating, that's a symptom that somewhere, somehow, there's some false pride involved. And that's listed in the Bhagavad Gita by Krishna himself. It's right here, I just read it. it says, those who are free from false prestige, illusion, and false association, who understand the eternal, who are done with material lust, who are freed from the dualities of happiness and distress, and who are unbewildered, know how to surrender unto the Supreme Person, attain that eternal kingdom. I pray I can do that before I leave. I pray that all of you can do that. That we can all do that together. And so, that was my, what I was so excited about was, and I really didn't get a chance, I guess I was just, I don't know, anyway, I'm not going to make excuses, but is that I've been meditating for years now. What does it mean? The test of your love for me is how you cooperate. We say it, but, and I did have an experience, and I've mentioned this, but I'm going to say it again, that when Prabhupada came to Atlanta, he was extremely pleased during those 3 days. So many things happened. Everyone who was there, everyone has heard about how Prabhupada showed ecstasy, tears shooting out of his eyes just by seeing the deities. And within a few minutes, he couldn't speak, so choked up. So many things that he normally didn't do in public. He gave a Madanga class sitting on the Vyasa side in the evening. It was all so wonderful. And everyone was just saying, they couldn't understand. And so much to the point that Sudhakirti, and I asked him if this was true, because I had heard it, but I asked him in 2005 in Mayapur, I said, is it true that you asked Prabhupada why was he so pleased with Atlanta? Because you said to him that there are other bigger temples, more devotees, more opulence. What was it about Atlanta that so pleased you? And he said, when I saw how they were all cooperating together to please me, that's what pleased me. And of course, you have to understand, first of all, there's several factors with that. One is, we had just moved in to that property about 2 months prior. And one of the buildings, the one that Prabhupada stayed in, that one was actually, no one had lived in it for a few years. It was just a shell. And the other one, the temple, was a fraternity house for some pretty rowdy guys. And the other one was sort of some people rented some rooms in it, but it wasn't in terrible shape. And so we really had to, the temple room was not a temple, the altar was a separate room, there was a wall there. So we had to really, and we're doing this anyway, and then all of a sudden we hear, Prabhupada's going to come in 2 weeks. We're like, what? Who? What? We're like, he's coming where? Here? It's amazing. And then on top of that, at that point, the big issue in ISKCON was whether you were brahmachari, sannyasi, or a grahasta, and what type of service you did. If you were a book distributor and you were wearing saffron, then you were first class. If you were wearing white, then you've raised the flag of surrender to Maya. I surrender. I give up. And if you weren't distributing books, well, okay, you could cook for the Sankirtan devotees. And there was a lot of tension. And some of these devotees would even come in and try to steal away devotees. All the men, especially the men, because the women, they were the problem. And the women were treated really badly there. I have to say, that was not a nice time. And they're always complaining about the women. There's all these letters where the brahmacharis are complaining about the women, and Prabhupada saying, really, well, Bhakti True read one of them. Bhakti True Maharaj read one of them. The brahmacharis are so agitated by the women in New York, in the temple, then what about all the women in the city? They should just go to the forest. They won't see anyone. Just go live in the forest. That's what you should do. But so we didn't see any of that while we were preparing for Prabhupada, because this was the phrase, Prabhupada is coming. That was the phrase, that was the mantra. Prabhupada is coming. And there was a tug of war with Jayatita Ramswar trying to get him to go to LA, and some people were trying to stay in London. It was going back and forth. And then he finally did come. And so Prabhupada picked up on that we were. And then it actually in the Sunday feast, in that question and answer period, one of the brahmacharis for the Radhamana party, I think it's the one that does that Bhagavad Gita class online, Narantara. And really nice, that thing he does on the Bhagavad Gita, his first class. He asked the question. He said, Prabhupada, what pleases you the most? And it was just, it's like a pregnant pause. And Prabhupada just started chuckling. And he looked down at some of the leaders and he said, if you love Krishna, if you chant Hare Krishna, and they went, it's like, yeah.
Not just the book distributors.
No, everyone. Just love Krishna, chant Hare Krishna. So anyway, that's my story and I'm sticking to it. Hare Krishna.
Thank you.